Okay, bear with me. This is probably like the third time I'm recording this, so like I'm low key boiling. But let's get into it. So I just completed my first draft, right? It took me 2 years to write out. And there's some lessons I learned along the way. And one of the primary lessons I learned is you don't need to know everything in order to start your drafting process. Cause like I was thinking about, like this whole time, it took me 4 years, 4 years from 2020 to 2024 to complete my outline. Actually, I didn't really complete it, but I just like said like, oh, YOLO, let me just start my first draft because I didn't really have an idea of I know I did have an idea, but it was still very vague of what I want the middle portion to be like and I want the ending portion to be like, but I just didn't entirely have like a grasp of like scene by scene and what I want the characters to truly be doing in those times. So I was like, you know what? I know exactly what I want to do from chapter 1 through 5. So I was like, why not just start off there and see what happens? Hopefully it gives me clarity for the other parts of the story. And you know what? You know what happened? It did. It gave me clarity. So yeah, so literally what happened was I knew exactly what I wanted to do chapter 1 through 5. So I was like, okay, let me focus on these chapters. And then, of course, write out the scenes, write out the dialogue, write out the description of the world building, of course, and the narration, things like that. And now while I was doing that, I realized that as you're writing out the details, literally, it's almost like you're walking down the tunnel and literally it becomes clearer. Like you start seeing a little bit of glimpse of light towards the end, like, oh, okay, like I actually am going through the right path because now a new idea comes around, like, oh, this is probably how I could start the next chapter. And then literally is all about building momentum. That's what I noticed about writing out your draft is all about building momentum. Like as long as you have momentum on your side, you could literally finish your draft like pretty quickly. And the way to maintain that, like to maintain the momentum, is you kind of I kind of realized that sticking to the order of writing out chapter 1 to like let's say chapter 30, sticking to that order of like okay 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, going through that order, it doesn't make sense at least for me because I could have ideas where I write out chapter 1 through 5, right? But then sometimes I could have an idea as like more in line to a chapter like chapter 8 through 10, but my next chapter is like 6 through 8, right? 6 and 7. So let's say if that happens, right? There's only two options, two choices I realize I can make. Is either I skip those chapters and then go to chapter 8 through 10 and then write out those chapters and then reverse engineer, come back to chapter 6 and 7, and I probably will have a better sense of how those chapters could go in order to be aligned to the future chapters I just written. Or another strategy is placeholder ideas. And essentially, that's really where you just put the simplest idea onto chapter 6 and 7, and then you move on to chapter 8 through 10. So, because sometimes we do have the reason why we're stuck is because we actually do have ideas, but we just don't really like it that much. And we know that we probably gonna have to change it later because we don't really think is that good in the first place. So yeah, like you have to remind yourself that this is the first draft and no one's gonna see it. So like, only you gonna be the one looking through the first draft. So it really doesn't matter what you put in the paper. Like you could literally write in kindergarten level and it doesn't truly matter if no one's gonna see it at all. So yeah, like that's why is either I want to like skip the chapters if I have no ideas at all, or I put those placeholder ideas to move on to chapter 8, 9, and 10 and then reverse engineer. It's all about maintaining that momentum. As I was writing out the chapters, like, okay, I gotta just keep moving forward because the objective is just to finish the draft and get as much information into the document as much as possible. That's literally the goal of writing out the first draft. And one of the things that helped me as well is like realizing that 40%, that's literally like the percentage that pop into my head, especially as I work with clients, because this is a similar experience that they had as well. But like 40%, it could be more, it could be less, but that's the number I'm gonna put for now. But yeah, that literally is gonna be a lot of changes between your outline and your first draft, like no matter what. I promise you, no matter what, there's gonna be changes between the outline and the first draft. Truthfully, like I realized for myself, honestly, that stuff I put in my outline, like the middle portion and the end, yes, the outcome was the same, but the situation and the decision making of the characters was different. So once I realized that, I was like, okay, damn, like, this makes more sense for what's happening in the story just because of the details is actually being written out. So now I have a better sense of what these middle portion should be like. So the ideas that I had for from the outline, sure, is a good roadmap, like is a good guide, but obviously based on little tweaks here and there in the dialogue and what's happening, the ideas that's coming into my mind now fits more congruently to what's going on in the story. So yeah, that's really what grew my belief that outlines is more of a guide and less of a step-by-step roadmap. You know, is you should really think of your outlines as guides. Picture it this way: is almost like think about as like a map where it shows you where the lake is, nature, whatever. But once you go through the lake yourself in person, the map didn't show that there's like literally a boat in shore that could like help you cross the river. You get what I mean? Like that's literally how I describe it. Like they're showing you like the general sense of like what normally is around the area or what is the path that normally in a day-to-day basis, but as you're writing things out and actually going through the experience, you notice that like, oh, wait, there's a boat right here that could help me cross the river. Or, oh, wait, there's actually like a lot of fish around here that could help me cook and eat food. I don't know if that helped or not, but hopefully it made sense because it kind of made sense to me. But I don't know. Maybe it didn't for you. A funny thing I want to mention is like literally one of my clients in the past, I was literally helping him with his outline, and then later on in the future, I was reading through his first draft, and I was like, "Who is this character?" And then I realized that he changed the main character's name, and I was like, "What?" So that's why I realized, like, anything could change between the outline and the first draft, like anything. So don't worry about like having to make changes or like following it like the outline to the T. I hope this gives like comfortability for you to realize that changes is gonna happen, and you don't have to figure things out in the outline. Another thing I want to mention too is when you're stuck with certain scenes or chapters, let's say, you could honestly like go into the outlining phase in the middle of your draft. Like sometimes I'd be doing that, like where I literally was like, okay, this is like a crucial chapter, and I really need to figure out like what is going to be happening and what I'm going to be having my characters do and decide on doing. So I was like, okay, let me just go and like outline general ideas, like put things, basically brain dumping, like throwing things at the wall and what's seeing what sticks. And then I start organizing it and then getting a sense and a grasp of like, okay, this is how I could probably write out this chapter. So yeah, like you could literally do a lot of things that probably you've never been told that you can do, just because like there are like certain like unspoken rules about drafting, but there's also like no rules at all, if you get what I mean. Like there's not really much rules. It's really all about figuring out your own style, your own method of writing out your story, and what process works for you, and the way I picture it is your process matching your progress that you want for your story? It probably is not going to match 100%. Like of course all of us wants to finish our story by tomorrow, but but like, are you satisfied right now with the progress that you're making for your story? And if you're not that satisfied, let's say like, 70-80% satisfied. If you're not there at that point, then you might need to switch up your system and your process of how you're writing out your draft. So yeah, that's really the main thing I want to mention and really want to talk about. You don't need to know everything to start your first draft. Your outline is just the guide. The draft is really the meat and potatoes, is the roadmap. Oh, maybe this is like a better analogy, right? So let's say you have like you buy like a puzzle box and you trying to, put the pieces together to figure out how to get the bigger picture, like what's the picture that the puzzles are forming, right? But let's say you buy a box where it's almost like the image of what the piece is supposed to create is blurry. Hang with me, you know? So like let's say it's blurry in the box of what the whole picture is, and you kind of are making like an educated guess of or predicting in a sense of what the bigger picture is. That's kind of how I view what the outline is to like trying to figure out your story. And then like your during your first draft process, you actually like putting those pieces together. And then as you're putting more pieces into the puzzle, it's like okay, like you actually starting to understand and seeing the bigger vision like is evolving in a sense. Like in the outlining phase it was simpler, but now it evolved to this like bigger thing, bigger vision, I should say. And you start seeing these paths, these avenues of how to reach to that vision. So that's kind of how I view it. So I don't know. I hope that was a better analogy. I hope it was, because I think it made sense to me. But you guys let me know in the comment section that made sense to you. And even with the whole like map and like finding the boat stuff, like let me know if that made sense at all. But yeah, once again, you don't need to know everything to start your drafting process. So start it today, right after this video. Start it today, right now. And yeah, I hope this gives you confidence to start your drafting process and stop outlining for so goddamn long. Like, yes, you could spend some time. Like, I honestly think maybe like a week or a month should be good enough, unless yeah, it should be good enough, regardless if you're writing like a book series too. Probably that's probably good enough. But yeah, hopefully this video helps. If you want to work with me, I do consultation calls with clients. You can click the link down below for that. What I do is I provide feedback for your outline so that you can feel more confident with starting out your first draft, as well as I also help assist with creating your outline, because sometimes we have like a bunch of ideas to spread out everywhere and we just need help with like structuring those ideas to form an outline. So I do that as well. Just a quick summary of my process: I give suggestions, questions, and my reactions to your story. And what I mean is, my suggestions is basically my ideas of what I think helps improves the story. My questions to really help me understand your overall vision so far for the story, and my reaction, which I think is the most valuable, is basically my first initial thoughts or feelings. Is more about feelings about my your ideas, and what is almost like in a sense of what would be a first time person reading your story going to feel about these ideas or these certain scenes, good or bad, and does it match how you feel about those scenes in a sense. So yeah, I also have a video like here or there that helps you understand like my consultation calls. I have a video explaining that part. So yeah, you could click the link down below for that. But yeah, anyways, I'm glad that you watched this video. I appreciate you always, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.